Wow, kama kawaida darasa imewadia. This is the morning cafe, karibu sana. My name is Fred Indimole. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Governor Kawira Mwangaza has officially been impeached.
Oh yes. I think earlier we were trying to debate, is she the first female governor to be successfully impeached?
I think successful impeachment, she's the first. Yes, but we'll establish that. We may never know, yes. But she becomes, I think, the third governor to be impeached.
Successfully.
Successfully?
Yes.
Interesting. That happened around midnight. Pengine hata ilifanyika leo, the 21st of August. This is Wednesday. Karibu sana.
I'm used to Stanley Nyarungita. Prepare yourself for a wonderful Wednesday morning. Trust you me, it's going to be wonderful. And because it's a Wednesday, relationship conversations, how much effort is too much effort in a relationship? Ushaeka effort kwa mapenzi, lakini hata wewe unaangalia unaona hapana, this is too much effort naeka hapo hivi. We'll be getting to discuss that.
Before that, of course, a lot to discuss on State of the Nation. That's the other direction, yes. State of the Nation. Titus Lote and Pika Chiliba, it's been a while before his
skills and prepare some very tantalizing meals. Stick around for that with Chef Lupao. On the dailies,
it's a question there on the front page of the Star. What bursaries? MP's radical plan for free education. Yesterday they had a kamukunji on this particular issue. And yes, we'll see what they had to say. Of course, Kawira Mwangaza there on the front page. But by the time the paper was going to...
On 21st August.
This paper did not know what was happening at the Senate.
Oh yes, and then on the front page of Daily Nation, revealed how rogue police let suspects escape.
You remember tulikuwa sema hii story ya Jaba, we just didn't know there was a twist. Yeah, prison break ini movie bana.
Ini by the way, ini whole ile tudun alitorokaje seli?
Alitorokaje seli? Hizi swali tu. Lakini aliingiaje kwa hii story in the first place? That should be the question.
That should be. Oh yes. On the front page of the Star, lawmakers moot new plan to ease varsity fee agony. I could go with that conversation about the whole varsity funding as well.
Yes, and of course something that we could escape our notice is the swearing in of the very first female Attorney General in Kenya. It happened yesterday as well. Daring escape from cells. This is the biggest discussion also on the front page of the People Daily this morning. 8 officers have been interdicted because of this, and we'll come back to that.
Yes. Business Daily, banks step up the battle for rich churches billions.
Makanisa
itakuwa sticky issue, but then we have to see how it will be.
In Uganda, they're still talking about garbage. On the front page of the Daily Monitor, state of garbage. The collapse of a landfill in Kitezi has opened focus to the situation of rubbish management across the country, with findings showing that the country's once vibrant and neat streets have devolved into open dumping grounds, bearing beneath the mountains of trash the pearl of Africa's beauty and innocence. Hey, but I love how neat the Daily Monitor does. You can compare ina tuseme
Tanzania. I knew you were going for Mwananchi.
The Daily Monitor is very, and they've gone about all the cities: Gulu City, Hoima City, Mbale, Masindi, Kampala, Kabale, Masaka, Arua, and Jinja, and the problem that they face. This is something that is also prevalent in Kenya as well.
Oh yes. Still in Uganda, the front page of New Vision, also neatly put, with that background of blue, oil prospects in 14 more districts. They are really keen on these districts. You remember yesterday they were put into office. Now they say that area surveyed shows good conditions for hydrocarbon generation.
All right.
In case you're in Kenya and you're seeing this, tafuta venye utaanza kwenda Uganda, because there's just be some oil prospects over there. Anza kutafuta how you're going to get into that particular place.
Kitezi also mentioned on the front page of the New Vision by talking about the rescue of heroes telling their stories. These are some of the people who played a key role in rescuing some of those who had been buried under the landslide. Crossover into Tanzania, and you realize in Uganda they're talking about oil,
yes,
oil prospects. In Tanzania, they're still talking about Uganda's oil, but now this time about importation. What Uganda's oil importation via Dar port means for Tanzania.
And then what they've done is wamerusha Kenya under the bus, kidesign wakasema how Tanzania is a better fit than Kenya.
Ni sawa tu. Ni sawa tu. Tutangoja tu. We'll be here. Uganda's decision to ditch Kenya and import oil through the port of Dar es Salaam is a strategic move that will significantly elevate Tanzania's standing as a regional trade hub. You know, they've always been in competition with Kenya.
Oh, yes.
What will happen? I don't know. They still make mention of what is happening in Kenya, and the image of Kenya's President William Ruto is also on the front page of the Citizen. At the top, they say win for Ruto as Kenya's Supreme Court reinstates controversial Finance Act. This is the Finance Act of 2023. In Kenya, no one is even putting this on the front page, but in Tanzania, they saw it fit to put even the image of the president. In Kenya today, I've not seen William Ruto on any of the front pages. But in Tanzania, they've actually given him
the Murima King is not on the front page of gazeti la Mwananchi wasema wanawake vinara kesi za ndoa na talaka. Sikiza hii, watajwa kuwa mstari wa mbele kuripoti mashauri ya ndoa, kifamilia, wanaume zaidi kwenye ardhi, jinai na madai.
Yes, and this is so true. If you go to TikTok or anywhere else, those people offering relationship advice, most of them are from Tanzania, and you wonder, really?
Ambiwa dogo sijali hivi ndio unamweka mkewe.
Kwingineko, Kikwete afunguka demokrasia nje ya sanduku la kura. Siasa inaendelea kuchacha kule Tanzania, na Majaliwa ashtuka madai madereva serikalini kurogana. Masuala ya ushirikina pia kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Urogi, maneno kama hayo. These are things you can never find on any Kenyan daily.
But then for Tanzania, you'd actually really find it there.
Ushirikina na masuala mengine. Let's come back home and take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi at this time of day. A lot is happening. We do expect some delivery later on. Oh yes, and it's building up slowly on the usual trouble spots. On Jogoo Road here, Makadara, you can actually see the Kawira trouble spot at Motela. It's building up a red there, meaning traffic nile. And as you get closer towards the City Stadium roundabout, this is also something very normal. The stretch Haile Selassie Avenue around Marikiti area, both sides of the road building up. Matatus, guys delivering vegetables from Rift Valley, and what else? Machungwa kutoka Ukambani.
Na waru kutoka huko Central.
But Thika Road watu wajamka bado. Yes, usually by now, okay, it's building up. This bottleneck around the Pangani interchange, it's slowly building up. So guys from Kiambu Road and Thika Road, jaribu ufike mapema town. Let's go to the southern part of the city and take a look at Mombasa Road all the way from Next Gen into town. It's looking good. A bit of trouble here, but this is an exit 10 of the expressway just before you get into town. That's a bit of a problem there, but nothing much. Langata Road is looking good this morning, all the way down past Wilson Airport onto Timol Roundabout. Magadi Way also looking good. Ngong Road, the only build-up we see is around Prestige. What do you call that? Cross Junction. Na hiyo ni normal kabisa. And finally, the other major tributary into town is Wayaki Way. Okay, some trouble spots there.
On both actually.
Yes, past Mountain View. This is exactly just before, around Nairobi School. I think there's a lot of things happening around here. Just after Kangemi, there seems to be trouble around Nairobi School just before you get to ABC Place. But after that, it's a bumps, I'm informed. There are quite a number of bumps around Nairobi School.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a slowdown there. But after that, it's smooth all the way. Smooth all the way into town. So I'm informed that recent incidents where pedestrians crossing the road have had some accidents has forced the Kenha and Kura to build a number of bumps on that section of the road.
Let's take a look at the weather updates in different parts of the country. Let's start off with Nairobi and see how it is going to be. Remember yesterday I told you, according to the Kenya Meteorological Department, you're going to be seeing cloudy conditions from yesterday, the 20th, all the way to the 26th, that is next week. So that is similarly to what is happening even today. The temperatures, the highest temperatures, if in Nairobi, that are going to see is 22 degrees Celsius. So some sunny intervals into the mid-morning hapo kidogo as of 9 a.m. But then generally to the entire day is going to be quite chilly, by the way. So jam in a jacket as early as now. Let's go to Meru and see. The reason I chose Meru is because let's see how the political temperatures zimepanda.
Zimepanda.
Political temperatures.
I saw a lot of celebrations at night in Meru. Guys just watching the impeachment process at the Senate on TV, and they were dancing.
Hey.
Sifikiri wamelala hata sai. despite the chilly weather.
By the way, class, this is how it's going to be. Hakuna hata jua leo, by the way, in Meru. But then, wasijali, political temperatures are
But that says a lot. There's a dark cloud over Meru following the impeachment. You know how to craft a headline.
That is in Meru. In Siaya, let's go to the Lake region.
Okay.
And see slightly higher temperatures, 19 degrees. Leonie Kama, by the way, a number of regions in the country, the sunny intervals are going to be quite minimal. But then in Siaya, you're going to be seeing higher temperatures into the day after the noon hours, around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. there. And finally, into the coast region. In Kilifi,
Where?
24 degrees. Eesh.
Well, it's only 13 minutes past 6. It's already 24 degrees in Kilifi.
And it's going to get as high as 28 degrees Celsius. That is the weather update for you in different parts of the country. Let's take a look at the news diary. Two major highlights are going to be seeing in our news diary. First off, in matters education. So today, Fred, we're going to be expecting the TSE Commissioner, that is Nancy Macharia, the CEO of TSE and Commission Nancy Macharia, has invited the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, and the Kenya Union of Special Needs Education for a roundtable discussion set to resolve the 13.3 billion cash shillings teachers pay dispute, something going to be following up on for you. Remember as well, President William Ruto is also expected to meet with the union leaders this coming week, so wait to see how that will be. Maybe it's going to be happening today, maybe tomorrow, then we're going to be following that for you. Something also that is going to be happening at KICC today. CS Labour and Social Protection, that is Alfred Mutua, will today be engaging with private recruitment agencies on improving their recruitment process, accessing high quality jobs in international labour markets, and exploring a smoother and safer migration experience for Kenyan workers. This is a very sticky issue, Fred, because we've seen cases of our Kenyan people wakiteswa kule Saudia and other places around there. So it is going to be one of those key issues, because he's going to be meeting with those recruitment agencies just to see where the problem is as well. That's among others. Again, the Meru, who expects the Meru leaders to also be talking about this, the whole impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza as well.
Yes, exactly. What happens to Kawira Mwangaza after the Senate upheld her impeachment? That will be a big discussion point, and we'll be looking at that with my team as well. Today in history?
Let's take a look at Today in History for you.
On 21st August 1961, Kenya's founding president, Jomo Kenyatta, was released by British colonial authorities on the condition that he doesn't run for public office.
Right, and
so the big headline on the Standard: what bursaries MP's radical plan for free education? This is a big discussion. Plus Kawira Mwangaza's there's something happening, eh?
There's something, Nambio, there's something happening.
Kuna gari kubwa sana hapa nje. What exactly?
Unasema nini?
Huh?
Tukaribie Koget. All right. Unaona?
Wow, there's something happening here.
That's a Maybach, I'm telling you. Eish.
Where?
Eish. Sijui tuende tuangalie. Fred, tuende tuangalie what's happening, you know?
A new dawn here at TV47. Karibu sana Shiksha Arora.
Thank you so
The
much.
dancing queen.
Thank you.
Meaning hapa itakuwa tu ni miondoko hapa.
Telling you, finally I'm going to learn some moves.
Yeah, today, by
I
the
hope
way,
so.
you're not going home before doing a dance with me. You know that, right? I hope you're ready.
Wow. Always ready. I was born ready.
I hope I'm ready.
I've experienced Indimuli's dance moves in the past. I must
Oh
say
yes.
he
Despite his old knees.
Oh,
he's
for
quite,
sure.
Yeah.
Indimuli has moves.
Oh yes.
That's for sure.
I told you.
But for you, Stan,
I'll try.
Time
I'll
will
try.
tell.
I'll try.
Karibu sana Shiksha. It's good to have you in studio. Tell us, what should we expect going forward in as far as Morning Cafe is concerned?
Right, so remember we have very interesting segments that come on later on. So we have Tasty Wednesday that's going to be happening today. We also have our relationship topic where we'll be discussing how much is too much. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like a relationship is always give and take. So sometimes when you're only giving and you're not receiving, that's when the problem comes. And I feel like that's the case in Nairobi.
It's called simping.
Same thing. High five. Air five.
Air five.
All right. So right now here, what we do at this time of day is taking a look at the newspapers, and I think you do have a copy of the Daily Nation.
Yes, I do.
So we'll take you slowly through the papers, and I do have a copy of the Daily Nation here as well.
So even as I give you, I'll definitely hand it over to both of you as I
Where's story yako imeisha leo?
as I exit. Niwache
This is him running away from the dancing.
Don't worry.
I can tell.
End up nje, be practicing the dance moves.
Yeah.
We'll come later.
Utakuja?
Yes.
Haya, so
Thank
guys,
you so
let me pop up kidogo. Tuonane baadaye.
See you later, Stan.
Haya.
All right. Let's take a look at the dailies now. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, revealed how rogue police let suspects escape. Now, this story has been playing out like a movie script.
Absolutely.
Remember when the police said that, and this was about a month ago, that this suspect had come out and confessed to killing 42 women, including his own wife.
Right.
And they were like, really? We didn't know that the plot was to twist even further. Now, yesterday, a prison break. This
Quite
gentleman...
literally.
Yes, it was a prison break.
Giving the whole prison break plot.
Yes, Collins Jumaisi is among 13 suspects who are at large after escaping from Gigiri police station. So far, the Nation here says it has pieced together how 13 detainees, including this suspected serial killer, Collins Jumaisi Kalusha, who was said to be charged with murder after he was arrested in connection with the Kware killings, broke out of the police cells. Now, this is a big discussion point, and quite a number of people have been arrested. 8 police officers in total, including the OCPD and OCS of that
There's
station.
a lot of questions, actually, that I'm sure every person who's been following this particular story, they have at the back of their mind.
Yes.
I mean, how exactly did the police and him interact?
Yes.
When did that happen? How did that happen?
1,000,001 questions.
Right?
Because the good thing is that Kenyans are very skeptical about such stories.
Yes.
They don't just buy any simple story. You
That we
tell
see
them,
on the
oh
headlines.
yeah, ati alihepa tu. No. Pole pole. Come again? What did you say? All right, that's a big story there. The other prominent story on any of the front pages should be the Senate's upholding of the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru. It happened at around midnight.
Yes.
Probably even happened today, early Wednesday morning. That means that none of the dailies captured that moment. So that's the latest. Here on the front page of the Daily Nation, they talk about bribery claims as Kawira fights hard for survival. That was happening yesterday. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, or very early this morning, the Senate voted to uphold the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza as governor of Meru.
Now, Fred, you know, the interesting thing about this is back in 2020, she actually mentioned that she apologized 70 times
Yes.
to the speakers, that is MCAs rather,
Yes.
and 1 time to the speaker. So I feel like this is something that she is not, you know, something that's new. She's very used to this plot. This has happened 3 times now.
And it still wasn't
and
enough.
You
You
still
apologize
wasn't
70
enough.
times and it's still not enough.
Right.
Wow. Anyway, the other story given prominence is on the top strip of the Daily Nation, why Mount Kenya leaders want 50% plus 1 rule abolished in elections. They talk about favoring rather a simple majority from all the votes cast. Whether or not this kind of proposal will fly, we have to wait and see. It may require a referendum as well.
Right.
Other quick highlights on the front page. The bus was faulty. This is an accident that happened. It features on some front pages, but on the Daily Nation, it's a simple highlight. And the journey to free education may have started with MPs pushing for one kitty. Now, that is another big discussion. This university funding model has caused quite some controversy. And yesterday, members of the National Assembly held a kamukunji to discuss this. And we'll be having some members of Parliament to tell us more about their discussions yesterday. It is a story that is on the back page of the Nation. Bursaries proposal could be path to free education.
Absolutely, and that's something that Fred will be discussing at length later on.
Okay.
And remember, if there's something that you would like to interact with us about these headlines, if you have a question, if there's a particular story that you think that we have, not covered at length, well, you can find us. That is the hashtag Morning Cafe at TV47. That is at TV47KE on Facebook, on Instagram, and at TV47 News on X. Let us know at Shiksha Arora, at Fred Indimuli.
I'm impressed. You got the drill.
Already.
All right, let's take a look at the Standard, the other big headline. And the university funding model is what features there on the front page. What bursaries, they ask, MP's radical plan for free education. And the hope is that actually members of the National Assembly could offer a solution to what we are saying. Probably you take it away. Shiksha.
Right, so obviously this is what bursaries, MP's radical plan for free education, and the new model described as an injustice to students as MPs push for reforms with a call to consolidate all kitties and funds, including HELB, that's HELB, universities fund and bursaries doled out by MPs, governors and MCAs, that is to make university and college education free for all. So that's on page 2 of the Standard. So that's the story that we saw at the back of the Nation, and this one has made it to the front page.
It's the big news on the front page of the Standard.
Yes.
A mention of Mwangaza, Kawira Mwangaza, still there. And as we had said earlier, yes, by the time these papers were going to bed, things had not gotten to where they did. So the papers only have preliminary highlights from the debate earlier in the day. But yes, by midnight or a few minutes past midnight, the Senate had already voted to impeach Governor Kawira Mwangaza. The next paper we do have is a Business Daily. You do have a copy of it there.
Right, and on the front page of the Business Daily, the first story, that is the headline, where banks step up the battle for rich churches' billions. And this is in particular because banks that see churches as fertile ground for growth by banking their teats and offering, boosting their deposit base. And commercial banks have increasingly targeted churches and other faith-based organizations with financial products in a bid to earn from the billions of shillings that are generated through donations, offerings, and investments in sectors such as education, real estate, health, and hospitality. So this particular topic, Fred, as we do know, it's quite a controversial one. There's always two sides of the story. There's always those who believe that this should be happening, and there's those who believe that, they should have absolutely no say in what happens in the churches, right? And this is something that I feel is a debate that has been happening for time, and I feel like we don't really know whether we'll see some sort of summary or some sort of conclusion to it.
The good thing is that banks are good business, churches are good business for banks.
Absolutely.
And a lot has been said about whether or not churches could be prone to money laundering.
Yes.
Or some politicians could be using some of the churches and religious organizations for money laundering.
That always is a point of question, point of debate.
So with this kind of heightened interest from the banks, we'll have to wait and see what happens. And because of time, I think we go straight to the cartoons now. Yes. We do have, and if Bona Director utusaidia hapo, we start with the one on the Standard. Yes. Cartoon on the Standard. We do have a track there. It talks about the IAAF World Junior Championships. Yes, this is a cartoon on the Standard. It talks about world athletics. We do have a caricature of some of the organizations, Athletics Integrity Unit, World Athletics, and an athlete, or someone representing Kenya there. And he's saying, we cheat in elections, exams.
The little dog.
Oh yeah, that's a commentator. We cheat in elections, exams, employment, and relationships. What's a big deal in sports? You see that kind of attitude?
Yeah.
If you're talking about integrity in sports, why only in sports when in all other facets of life we actually cheat?
Right.
In employment, in elections, in relationships.
Why are we biased?
Yeah. What's the big deal?
What's the big deal with sports?
Yeah, if I can't even be faithful in my relationship, what's the big deal with sports? I can cheat about my age.
Well.
That's the Standard, the cartoon on the Standard. On the Daily Nation, it talks about matters, the dispute between teachers and the employer, the Teacher Service Commission, and KNUT there, which is also referred to as NUT, is represented here as a nut.
As an actual nut.
And it says, you have the solution to the strike. Now, the solution is a wrench, which is a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement. So KNUT seems to suggest that, yes, the solution is simple implementation of the CBA.
The humor in this, though, I have to say, it's brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Not everyone will get it. But Indimuli has really explained it by, specifying what this means. It's a whole nut.
There's a looming teacher strike next week. Teachers have threatened to go on strike. There's a strike notice. So yes, as from the 26th of August, do expect that strike. Let's take a look at the Star newspaper. And this one is about the prison break.
Prison break story, which I'm very interested to see what exactly is their interpretation. Wow.
So on one side, this is the Gigiri police station.
Yes.
You have all this metal and very big locks on this side, but the wall is made of curtain.
And this is my favorite part because it says, we shall get to the bottom of this.
And the bottom is actually open. This is where they used, this was the route, escape
They
route.
used the Panya route.
They didn't need to break the door. They just left. But
Sweeps right through.
you see what they're suggesting?
Yeah.
This is a foot of a police officer
Who is
that's
actually lifting the curtain.
veil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the accusation is that is actually against the police.
Against the rogue police officers,
Yes,
right?
that, everything that happened there, police watuambie ukweli. And finally, on the People Daily, page 10, Stano's take talks about Kalonzo Musyoka's politics. Well, it is about the Gema debate. So we do have Kalonzo Musyoka with a famous wiper on his forehead, and he's talking about including the Kamba in the Gema Association. So previously it has been Gikuyu, Embu, Meru Association 2027, but now Kalonzo now seems to include the A as Akamba, not association. He seems keen on having this kind of grouping ahead of his presidential bid come 2027. Now, those are the cartoons this morning on our dailies. We'll be looking at this and others with my panelists after the break. Let me just introduce them once again. Titus Lote MP Kachiliba will be in studio for this conversation alongside James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. We're also expecting and hoping that Danson Mungatana, Senator from Tana River, will be making it to the studio. But remember, they've been in Senate till early this morning, handling the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza.
Absolutely.
So
we hope for the best.
We hope for the best. You can give them our social media handles so they can be part of that as we take a break.
Absolutely. As we discuss the state of the nation, the hashtag is Morning Cafe at TV47KE on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also find us on X, that is at TV47 News. Do let us know if you have any questions for the Mheshimiwas who are going to be in studio with Fred and Dimuli as we discuss this particular story, the impeachment of, the Kawira Mwangaza. And that's something that I feel is the topic of the day.
All right.
I feel like everyone's going to be discussing it. We're going to be talking about it. Ndimuli is going to be discussing it at length. So make sure you listen to that particular conversation until 8 a.m. I'll be back at 8.
All right.
And we shall definitely be looking at relationships then.
Looking forward to that. Let's take a break now. You're watching Morning Cafe. All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here at TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Of course, Shiksha Arora will be back at 8 a.m. Get the excitement. Kidogo Chini, she'll be back, don't worry. As for now, let's take a look at the state of the nation. Big headline, of course, how rogue police let suspects escape. That's a story on the front page of the Daily Nation. On the front page of the Standard, they talk about matters education, but this is only because the issue about the impeachment of Governor for Meru, Kawira Mwangaza, had not hit the dailies, because by the time these dailies went to bed yesterday at around 8 or 9 p.m., Senate was still in session. They voted, they sat late into the night, into this morning, and by about 1 a.m. this morning, a few minutes past 1 a.m., they voted to uphold the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza. This morning, we're privileged to have in studio James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Titus Lote, MP Kachiliba constituency. We're hoping to have Danson Mungatana, the senator from Tana River, but understandably, because of that late night call of duty, we are still not sure if he'll make it to studio, but this two gentlemen will help us discuss this. And let's start, of course, with that big news. The impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza. Many people had expected probably the Senate would once again save her. This is a third impeachment in less than 2 years, and she has not even been governor for 2 years, barely 2 years. Now we're seeing that she's finally been impeached. There are so many options, including the possible dissolution of the county government of Meru, because of the incessant wars between the county governor and the county assembly. But now we're seeing that the Senate overwhelmingly voted to impeach her. What are your sentiments, Gakuya, about this impeachment?
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. And coming to Kawira's political devenir, let me say, even my expectation was that Kawira will still survive in this one. Taking note that the allegations that were labeled against her were equivalent to the previous ones. And therefore, I has been always overseeing that situation and moved to impeach her as a politically motivated. And therefore, I was expecting a distinguish between political motivated impeachment and administrative impeachment, where one has genuine reasons to, in fact, to guarantee such kind of a decision of exiting her from the gubernatorial. Let me say that it is very critical when it comes to that final decisions of total impeachment, because Senate has the mandate to make the final approval. But still, Kawira can still proceed to judicially and try to seek her redress. But I would say politically, it is so naive that once you are impeached, the law does not allow you to occupy another public office. And therefore, even her future political election is in a dilemma. And that is why, personally, I always think that before Senate casts its final vote on this, there has to be that consideration that all allegations has to be checked and evaluated to make sure that actually they are justifiable to exit you from that political power. Number two, let me say, what can be expected now is that there would be peace in Melo County. Now that politicians now will be cool, considering that Kawira was politically against almost everybody else. It was a decision made in Melo that they were not ready for a woman governor. And it's unfortunate because women governors has been serving elsewhere and serving diligently and in peace. But this today we can't be able to tell whether the weakness was for Kawira because she was never given a moment to deliver anything.
Yes.
And therefore, we can't judge her at this point to state very clearly that actually it was her failure to diligently offer services to Melo. But me, once I stare to the public seems to be sympathetic to Kawira, and especially the public, the residents of Melo. But once you come politically, it's like leaders were totally against her leadership. And therefore, to balance the two, I would say it's fine for Melo to have an opportunity to have the leadership of the deputy governor, because outright that is the option. But let's wait and see whether the court will salvage. But once it is casted on Senate, it's also having very minimal chances to survive from the judiciary.
Bwana Titus Lote, it is the finality of it that's mind-boggling. The fact that, as Bwana Gakuya rightly put it, the fact once you are impeached, you cannot vie for public office going forward. But the Senate may have opted to go for the cheaper option. By upholding the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza, they did not trigger a by-election. Deputy Governor Reverend Isaac Mutuma Mithingia simply takes over and will nominate a deputy governor and move on. The other option of heading towards dissolution would have meant that you go back to elections. A resignation by the governor may have other implications as well. What is your take about this?
Well, thank you and good morning, Kenyans. I think I go back to Makueni, where Kifutha Kibwana faced a similar situation in the first term of his governance. And he was impeached by the MCS several times. He reached a point where he decided to actually ask the president that the whole Makueni County be dissolved. That includes himself and the MCS to go home. And that was the solution that then came to Makueni County. Then there was respect, mutual respect across board from the MCS and the executive. I think looking at the Mary incident, that would have been the way to go, because Kawira Mwangaza is not the only sinner here. The MCS, the legislature of Meru County also has taken this, so that if we say that it's Kawira Mwangaza that brought, they did not bring peace to Meru County, we might be wrong, because it seems like the MCAs were hell-bound to impeach her whether she performed or she did not perform. Because if you look at it, Fred, the impeachment is more political than governance. And the reason why you'll hear the MCS say is that our role is to impeach the governor, that it doesn't matter how many times the governor was going to be served by the Senate, they were going to impeach her again. And so it is her role, the role of the MCS, hellbound, to look at it that Mwangaza Kawira was impeached. And this gives me another challenge. Meru County might not be peaceful at all. Why? Because Kawira Mwangaza and the deputy governor never worked together. This gives it the case of Kiambu County during the time of Waititu. Mm-hmm. They never worked together. And so this is a person that has been imposed on the people. And the osters of Mwangaza are not actually the MCS. The osters of Mwangaza are people that are politically connected. Mm-hmm. The former leadership of Meru County, the male chauvinists who believe that women cannot rule. They are the ones who have concocted to say that Meru cannot be led by a woman. That is not governance. That is male chauvinism.
So you and they are the ones the Senate gave into more political.
I'm coming there. They are the ones that sat down, had plans on how to oust Mwangaza, whether she performed or she did not perform. And they used the MCS, who, in my view, will have been dissolved alongside the governor. And they finally succeeded. And they actually had said, even if it takes 5, 6, 7 times to bring Mwangaza for an impeachment, they will do that. So it wasn't about whether Mwangaza performed or whether Mwangaza did not perform. It was because she was a woman. It was because Meru County is supposed to be led by a man. And it is because they wanted to be in the seat. Unfortunately now, the deputy governor, who was not probably in the core of those who were sitting to plan to impeach Mwangaza will now take over. And when the deputy governor takes over, these people will still be agitated because they are still power angry. They are still not in the seat. It is somebody else who is in the seat. They might even now decide to either rock the boat of the deputy governor's leadership or even try to bring another impeachment so that the deputy governor is off so that they can come in. But I think the silver lining in this country is that we have got the courts. And if you look at the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza, the things that have been brought now to the Senate were nearly the same things that were brought the first impeachment, in the second impeachment. What has changed? If the Senate found a clean in the first impeachment and the second impeachment, what has changed?
Okay.
It is politics. It is all politics. And I will actually ask Kawira Mwangaza to go to court and defend herself in court. And I believe if the courts of the country remain the courts that we've seen of late, Kawira Mwangaza is going to be vindicated and that she's going to be given a chance. Remember Wambora, the man with 9 lives. He was impeached, not once, twice, and he went to court. And after which he was found to be fit. And he actually ruled the first term, and he actually got a second term and exited peacefully like anybody else. So I think Kawira Mwangaza could also be going that direction.
Okay. Mwanagakuya, do you feel that this action by the Senate could actually lionize other county assemblies elsewhere to hold this impeachment card as a tool to hold governors to ransom, that we can actually make life very uncomfortable for you, and ukitusumbua sana utaenda nyumbani?
For sure, it is not a good precedence politically, because it has witnessed that people can stage manage motive to just exit you from power just because of some ulterior motives, but not for facts and evidence that you are a failure. Because nobody can stand to tell us that Kawira was a failure, because she was never given a room to demonstrate herself. And therefore, it tells you can be elected by the mass, given power by the mass, but your power can be taken away by few. To me, I would say, since those are the measures that we have taken, that our constitution has set as a process of exiting from that position, there is need to look to that particular clause where deliberate moves of members of county assemblies can just deliberately wake up and collect signatures. And when they have enough to exit you, then the Senate has no room to safeguard you. Because for sure, the only savior for Kawira was Senate. And if Senate could have concluded otherwise, it does not matter whether these guys will come 10 times with impeachment. There is a safeguard, which is Senate. Because surely, that is why we have judges. Judges are not there just to give favors, but to look to both ends where the defendant is here and the prosecution is here. But you were to weigh the evidence tabled. And if the evidence does not drive you to ouster, then you have to safeguard. I would say whether there was that political hit in Melo, it was not just viable to push that lady out. And if the jitterness is that they were not ready for a woman leader, then I believe that they need to change their culture, if that is the case. Because the Constitution actually is the supreme, and the Constitution does not deny leaders to contest for those kind of positions.
If it was an issue of culture, she was voted for by the majority in Meru County, including men and women as well.
And the reason why Mwangaza herself says there is no problem with the populace of Meru. It is all about some few leadership or leaders of Meru who wants her out. It is not about the people of Meru. The people of Meru respect the Constitution, and they know that the Constitution allowed them to vote for a woman, and that's the reason why they brought in a woman. I am disappointed, very, very disappointed, because if you look at the way the senators were voting, it will tell you that this is a political issue and it's not a governance issue. Because out of all the senators, 24 voted for yes. 14 senators that were present absconded, and 4 voted for no. If you look at the political formation of these senators, the way they were voting, it was basically a political vote, because the 4, if you look at the 4 that voted for no, are actually more aligned to our deputy president, Gigiri. If you look at the 14 that absconded, most of them are actually from the Azimio or ODM faction. If you look at the 4...
Are you saying that the current national political formations played out as well?
That is why I'm trying to analyze. If you look at them, try to look at them properly. The 24 that voted are actually from Kenya Kwanza. So it cannot be... And
with ODM or Azimio pulling out,
yeah. It cannot be, it can never be that the ODM decided to pull out of nothing. The Azimio ODM decided to pull, because Azimio and ODM is the same thing. And I actually was wondering if Juan Kalonzo and Eugene Wamalwa were asking ODM to exit from Azimio, because I thought the other way will have actually happened. But the voting actually showed a political pattern. And the fact that it now showed a political pattern tells you that the impeachment was not based on merit. The impeachment was not based on malpractices in Meru County. The impeachment was based on politics. And again, in Dimbole, if you actually look at the governance of all the 47 counties, I don't think Kawira Mwangaza performed poorly. In fact, when they did ranking of counties, Kawira Mwangaza's Meru was actually number 5. Then, if impeachment was based on merit, we should have actually impeached many other governors by the time we reach her. All other governors would probably have gone home. And so, I am disappointed by the fact that the Senate did not rise up to the occasion. Senators needed to have voted all of them, because all the facts were put before them. Why are you absconding when the facts are before you? Does it mean that you do not understand the facts? Or did it mean that your heart isn't between?
Okay.
Because I thought a genuine person will either have an answer that is a no or a yes, not in the middle. Sitting at the middle basically means you cannot make decisions.
Okay. Well, Gakuya, do you agree with that assessment? Because basically this is a governor who came into power through an independent ticket. She does not, she's not in Kenya Kwanza, neither is she in Azimio. Then Lote seems to suggest that the kind of national politics or realignments that we are seeing at the national level could have also played a part in this vote yesterday, early this morning. Do you agree with that?
Well, let me say that, in fact, as much as Kawira was elected from or on a ticket of independent ticket, it does not matter, because we have similar elected governors and a sample of Voi governor, who is also elected on an independent ticket, who does not face the same kind of murky like Kawira is facing. So I would say being elected from either party is neither here nor there. What matters is that conducive environment that you can be given to serve. And I believe whether the majority are from the ruling party in that particular county, that does not matter, because this position is a service delivery position. And I think MCA's duty is purely checks and balance. And you should accuse your governor with the merits. But you cannot, I would say it is a duty for the governor to make sure that he balances the what we call development within the county, and this way is to make sure that, in fact, every other single MCA has a project down there. But that does not mean you should nab her to the head, because budgets are being passed by the MCAs.
Okay, but do you agree that the numbers at the Senate took a route that we are seeing with the national?
What I can tell you is that, in fact, taking consideration that the highest number was Kenya Kwanza's number, which exceeded Kawira, there might be a signal from somewhere.
And the fact that most of ODM senators abstained from the vote?
That tells you they abstained. Because I look at it very suspicious when the last submission was made, and then the speaker stood, and when he directed that all media stations should mute. And therefore, I learned something mischievous. So I asked myself, why should we even make a determination without cameras.
Yes, indeed, the voting process was not captured by media, but our reporters were there to actually just follow up. No cameras were on at that time. But as we conclude this issue about Kawira Mwangaza, and there's an issue about the relationship between the governors and their deputies. In the first two impeachment processes, it was said that Kawira Mwangaza and her deputy also had issues. We are seeing the same in Uasin Gishu, and for the first time, we've seen the resignation of the deputy governor. Engineer Barorot resigned this past week, and it is said that even if, despite the fact that he said he has gotten another job, basically his resignation was engineered by the fact that he did not enjoy a good working relationship with his boss in Eldoret, in Uasin Gishu. Do you agree that there's still an issue when it comes to devolution in as far as the relationship between the governors and their deputies is concerned?
Well, I'm speaking from a point of knowledge, having been a deputy governor before. I think the Constitution did not get it right when we speak about the deputy governor. Because if you look at the Constitution, I think in one of those articles of the Constitution, it speaks about very little about the role of the deputy governor. Actually, the role of the deputy governor does not exist in our Constitution. Because if you look at the way the deputy governor swears into office, it should have been one of those annexes in the Constitution, I think 6, where the deputy governor, when he swears, he says, I will advise, support the governor when asked to do so. That statement waters down all the role of the deputy governor when asked to do so. That is the role of the deputy governor. There is no other role in the Constitution. You look at all articles that gives the deputy governor any role. And so when a deputy governor comes into office, it entirely depends on what the governor will call for as an advice from the deputy governor, not anything else. And the governor somehow, when he's appointing through the County Governors Act, when he's appointing the CECs or the ministers, the county ministers to say, he's allowed to give some roles to the deputy governor. So somehow the deputy governor plays a role, despite the fact that he's a political figure, just like the governor, and they actually went out for election. He plays a role such as that of the CEC, the executive member of the county government. So the governor can decide. And if you look at the roles of the deputy governors, this is now the third devolution from 2013 to 17, 17 to 22, now 22 to 27. You find that very few deputy governors are given roles by their governors. And that brings the approach relationship between governors and their deputies. So if the governor, and I have respect to many of those counties where the governors are working very cordially with the deputy governor, because the governor and the deputy governor needs to sync in terms of how they relate to each other. It's all about relationship, and that cannot be legislated. Some of the deputy governors, unfortunately, believe that they are co-governors. And so when they come in, they want to compete with the governors. I was with my governor. We even ran for the second ticket because you have to respect leadership. And so that kind of relationship, that cannot be legislated. Once you work together, the governor will be free to be able to give you roles to play, as long as you are not trying to undermine and believe that you are a co-governor. Okay. And that is where the problem is. Many of the deputy governors, and even the deputy governor for Meru, has actually been utilized and be used by the people that are opposing the governor, because this is a person that is constitutionally very close to the governor, but relationship-wise, very far from the governor. So they can be used by anybody. And I believe that even the Meru deputy governor today, we saw the deputy governor for Waititu. This is a person that was used by other political formation outside the government to bring down the government. And so I will propose, and we kept it proposing even when I was a deputy governor, that when we do a constitutional review, we need to assign roles to the office of the deputy governor, so that there is a specific role that cannot be annexed or cannot be taken away by the governor. Because if the governor decides not to seek for support or to seek for advice from a deputy governor, then the deputy governor has got no role at all. If you look at all the 47 counties now, I'll tell you probably 5 or 10 are the only ones where the deputy governor and the governor are working together. The rest, the deputy governors are actual rebels within the government.
And having an idle deputy governor that could possibly be so disgruntled due to a confrontational relationship with his or her boss, they could easily engineer an impeachment motion now that we've seen it's so easy to engineer a mutiny in the county assembly and ensure the governor is out. They are the direct beneficiaries of the ouster of a governor.
One, let me say, as it has well put by my colleague, it's only a good relationship between the two which can maneuver a very good working relationship. But the position is very critical that it can be used or influenced. You know, that's an office. And it's an office where you are in the same compound, the same facility, and you are sharing almost the same governor's parlor. And I would say you have room to mingle with the MCAs all the time. You have room to mingle with the CCs all the time.
And nothing much to do.
And nothing much to do. Because there is no law which says the deputy governor can never sit or mingle with a sitting member of the county or a CC. And I will tell you, that definition of some work for deputy governor are very key, so that the deputy governors cannot be seen as idlers in the office, and that idleness can also influence them to ouster their governors. And I believe if that can be crafted, then the temperature can be low and the heat can be somehow sorted. I believe it's a window which is very necessary because we have seen an experience of even Nairobi, when a deputy governor, who was the deputy governor for Sonko, actually threw of the towel at a stage when he declared that in fact he's a flower girl in the office, and therefore it means the governor can misuse you because he does not delegate any single work to you. Okay. And since it's not written on a black on white anywhere in the law, then you can take governor nowhere. Okay. You cannot go to court to challenge that governor is not delegating work to you, because you are there really for the mercy of the governor. If governor decides that actually he can delegate, he can. If he decides not, no. If he decides even to accommodate you by the time he is making appointments and nominations, he can. But a governor who thinks that you have no business with him, he will still move on, because the powers are not delegated. And therefore, a divination to create something for that deputy governor to do is key to me.
All right. And yes, the Senate at about 1 a.m. this morning voted to uphold the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza as governor of Meru County. What next? Will she move to court? Meanwhile, Isaac Mutuma Methingia, deputy governor, will take over the role of governor as we await the next step. Matters devolution, of course, making big headlines this morning. Not captured on the dailies because this happened early this morning. The dailies went to bed at about 8 or 9 p.m. yesterday. But this other story they've captured, especially on the front page of the Daily Nation, has to do with this daring escape from police custody. Revealed how rogue police let suspects escape. That's the front page of the Daily Nation. The story is also captured on Taifa Leo. Wanauliza swali kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, alitorokaje seli? It is also there on the People Daily. They say daring escape from prison. They talk about how 13 detainees, including suspected serial killer Collins Jumaisi Kalusha, who was set to be charged with murder after he was arrested in connection with the Kware killings, broke out of the police cells. Bwana Titus Lote, this is more like a movie script than reality. When the police came out, the DCI came out the first time to claim that this suspect had actually come out and confessed to killing 42 women, including his own wife. Many people asked questions, and because then there were protests and people were being abducted, a lot disappeared within that fray. And he has been very quiet, Collins Jumaisi Kalusha. Then the next time we hear about him, he's managed to simply walk out of a police station and disappear. What is your quick response or reaction to this story?
This person called Jumaisa Collins is a person of very high interest in this country. Very, very high interest, because when the Kware killings were exposed, we find that it attracted a big national debate. it nearly brought this country back to the brink of collapse, because we were just coming out of the Gen Zs and the infiltrated Gen Zs demonstrations, which caused a lot of deaths, which is very unfortunate. And then we found that there are people who have been murdered and put in a dam. You find every leader went there, even when is Raila Odinga, the former cabinet prime minister, had actually decided to work with the president. He flew from Kisumu and went to the Kware site, and there were a lot of people. And you remember the police were also fought out by the people. The police could not even access the place because people, the mob was angry about what happened. And in fact, it was suspected, and it is still suspected, that probably this Collins was a cover-up for something that might have been done by the state, because people are trying to link it, unfortunately, with the demonstrations that were. So for me, it is very sad and very suspect that this person of very high interest could walk out of prison, unlike many other Kenyans that are in prison. Why is it that the person that is supposed to be guarded the most is the person that has walked out of prison? I actually listen to people out there, and sometimes Kenyans are given freedom or they are given reasons to actually speculate. And there's a lot of speculation out there. And I think it is important that the police, and especially the new police head that has come in, the Gilbert Masengeli, it needs to do everything possible to ensure that Collins is back into prison. Because if it doesn't, every Kenyan, and Kenyans will be given the opportunity and the freedom to say that this was a state-orchestrated escape, so that the information that this person will have given will just disappear. Because if Collins is in prison, if Collins is brought in before the courts of law, he might say something that might contradict what the popular or what the government is trying to tell the people. And so probably the government, that is what people are saying, the government has allowed Collins to escape so that everything then disappear. But I think Kenyans don't forget. Kenyans will always remember that there were people that died in the quarry, and the suspicion that it was done by the government, and that Collins has been brought in as a scapegoat, and that now the scapegoat has been allowed to escape so that the information also escaped. I will say, for the purposes of this government, and I don't want to become one of the persons that will say that it is the government that killed people at the quarry. I will not say that. Because until the truth come out, and the truth is only in this person called Collins. So it is of very high importance. All state machineries are supposed to be brought into book until these Collins come back. If it not, then all the officers that were manning this prison needs to be sacked and to be taken to prison for allowing the key suspect, actually is key among all, because you cannot talk about deaths of people, including his wife at this confession, to just be killed, and then this guy walks out like that. If it is going to Uganda, if he went to Uganda, if he went to Ethiopia, if he went to anywhere in the world, he is supposed to be brought to book, because Kenyans want to understand, Kenyans want to know, is it the state that killed the people that were in Kware, or it is him who killed the people in Kware?
And of course, once the DCI came out and sensationally claimed that this gentleman had been arrested and sensationally confessed to killing all 42 women, including his own wife, there was a lot of skepticism. And people did not shy away from saying the same, even on social media, i.e. on Uwongo. Now, this time, there's a prison escape. Kenyans are still skeptical. Kenyans are not buying it.
Let me say, I want to buy the sentiments of my panelists, that unless the government clears itself from this saga, it seems to be very well calculated move. Because right from the beginning of this drama, there was high suspect that those victims were executed by the government officers. And to prove that alone, then that tag of the suspect has to be very clear. And I can tell you, and I don't want to preempt what transpired, but the rest of the 13 suspects had no business to escape. But the motive was Jumas to leave the corridors of of the Gigiri police station. And for sure, for reasons we can't tell, because that was a clear motive that this man should not step on court. And before that is done, let us exit them. As of now, if the agencies were serious enough, by this moment, those 13 members should have already arrested and back to the cells. And if this is not going to happen in the next 48 hours, then it tells it was a clear motive just to make him disappear. Because if you disappear from Gigiri and you exit completely and you are nowhere to be found, I am telling, unless there was a waiting car outside and this car was a premeditated car, purposely for that particular motive. And finally for the Nairobians, especially because the matter happened in Nairobi, for us to have our peace in this, then the NIS and the DCI must put the office very clean in this, because we are still seeing the blood at their hearts. Okay. And unless that they clear this matter to the head, because the suspect is there, and they made Kenyans to believe that this is the suspect who did this, then we need to see the suspect in court. But these other shenanigans, I can tell you, it is making it and giving a lot of suspects.
It is an indictment against the police service now that they have a new police IG, Douglas Kanja, taking over, newly sworn in. The police have come under a lot of criticism over their recent actions, especially in handling the protesters, abductions, allegations of killings, extrajudicial killings. Now, the same police that was able to, within 48 hours of the discovery of bodies at Kware, was able to arrest a suspect who confessed, and now they're acting as if they're not as professional, and people or suspects escaping from their custody. What happens with this police service going forward, Bwana Lote? They seem to be wishy-washy. On one hand, they can be very effective. On the other, they can be very messy.
Well, first of all, I will not say the police are not working, because it's only yesterday that the report of Colin's disappearance came in. So let's give them time, because even in very advanced economies and in countries that has very high security, including cybersecurity and all the IT security, we still see suspects escaping prison. And so it is not a unique thing to Kenya. And so we cannot be able to verify the police 100% to have heeded this. It's only if the police cannot be able to apprehend this person again. That is when we will start to say the police have a hand in this. So let us say the police have done their work. It is unfortunate that the key suspect in this country has disappeared before even the issue of the Kware killings come to light. So the police have been blamed, and I think the police across the globe, all where the police are, I don't think there is any country that the citizens go to bed with the police, because the police are law enforcers. And when you are law enforcing, you definitely have to come into loggerheads with the people that you are enforcing the law on. And so I will say, well, let us not vilify the police at this point, but we will only vilify. I will be here speaking and making a lot of noise if the police cannot get this person within the next 24 hours.
Okay.
It is going to be very unfortunate, and it will be a hand of the police if this person cannot be brought into book.
All right. Of course, it is a big discussion, and it's been given prominence on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Police officers who were on night duty reported that when they opened the cells at Gigiri police station yesterday morning for a head count, they found 4 suspects instead of 17. So in total, 13. According to the officers, 13 detainees, including suspected serial killer Collins Jumaisi Kalusha, had broken out of jail by the time of the head count by 5 a.m. The rest, the 12, were Eritreans. So Collins Jumaisi Kalusha, the only Kenyan to manage to escape from police custody in that prison break. That is a story that will continue. Let's now focus on matters education, because this one directly affects you as members of the National Assembly. The university funding model has been very controversial. It's generated a lot of hue and cry among members of the public, a lot of uproar, many families complaining about the banding model. the funding model and the categorization of families' incomes and where they fall in that category. Yesterday, there was a speaker's Kamukunji where members of the National Assembly attended, and they discussed this matter at length, including coming up with some of suggestions that have been captured in the dailies today. It is a big headline on the front page of the Standard, and it starts with a question: what bursaries? MPs a radical plan for free education, which sounds very nice, but just how far have the members gone? They say the new model, the new university funding model, described as an injustice to students. Meanwhile, MPs are pushing for reforms with a call to consolidate all kitties and funds, including HELB, universities fund and bursaries doled out by MPs, governors and MCAs to make university and college education free for all. Did you get an opportunity to attend this Kamukunji, and should we look forward for a proper solution from the direction of the National Assembly? Because so far it seems the government or the Ministry of Education insists on this new university funding model. Meanwhile, Kenyans are saying, hey, it's not working.
Yes, of course, yes, I was able to step in the Kamkunji at the morning, though I also exited before the PS started explaining to members on how they are prepared to handle this university funding. To me, because I understand the previous model and the current model, I would say personally, I am not comfortable with the current model because the current model, unless it will be a model which will be left to be handled by system, but not individual members that will be picking on hard picking. Any proposal that we may try to bring in on matters to classify, that classification is very key, because you might leave out the most needy student by just an element of classification. So to me, it does not argue very well to me. And I would still say that, in fact, we need to look for other better model other than that, where let the demand depend on who. Because I believe that, in fact, one, if he's capable, even in the bursaries that we normally give out in our local constituencies, not everybody comes for the bursary. But you see, the most needed comes. And they wake very early and find them on the queue as early as 5 a.m. And therefore tells you, if that is how the need is, then you don't need to qualify somebody who, because most of the children will suffer in one way, that you are left out of that classification. And the actual position is that the parents are not capable. And as a student, you are rocked where you could earn the funding. That means that you are shut and your dreams are completely shut. Then I would ask that, in fact, we look for a better model which can allow everybody to get to the kitty. And because this funding somehow is loan, you find that, in fact, if you take loan from the current agents that handles that loan, after you assume to job, it's a recoverable money. And I wish if the government can make sure that, in fact, they fast track elements on how to deal with the students that actually, which exist from the colleges and universities. That is how we should do, to make sure that the country has opportunities of job, so that this money can be recovered by help soon as possible. But I exit from university, there is no job, I become a hawker or somebody else, and then there seems no hope. And they are recovering that money becomes so hard. But I would say the idea that members came up with to combine these resources, especially from bursaries handled by the governors, the counties, the bursary handled by members of parliament, and also those other scholarship monies together. The problem is who will be handling them. And unless we take this money back either to help or to the ministry, because whom do we trust to this money? At the end of the day. Okay. So the idea is so key, but whom do we trust? Are we going to create another agency which will handle issues to do with university funding totally?
Okay. And the biggest discussion is around the method used to classify families as needy or less needy or able families. But many people are feeling that this could actually be taken advantage of by powerful people, that it's very easy. We've seen such systems, even HELB and others, where people who are clearly well off still manage to get bursaries, whereas people who are very needy are just not able to prove their neediness to the system. That in itself could be equated to discrimination. Education is supposed to provide equality, or at least equity. Do you agree that this funding model could actually be a cause for discrimination in as far as education is concerned?
Well, I think let us not vilify completely the funding, the banding. The banding was having a very good objective, and the objective of the funding, of the banding, was to ensure that every Kenyan is actually served by this country in the manner that is proper, so that those that have got a high income, 120,000 and above, are banded at 5. Those that are having less than 6,000 monthly income are banded at 1. And those that are banded at 1 are also eligible to get bursary. They are also eligible to get funding to tunes where instead of paying 120, they pay 6,000 in the whole year. So the objective was good, and I want to say, let us not try to always say everything is wrong. The objective was good, because in this country we are stratified. There are those people who earn millions in a day, and there are those people who cannot earn millions in their lifetime. And so you have to serve people. That is what we call equity, so that those that have are given less, those that do not have are given more. That was the objective of the banding. But the unfortunate thing is, Fred, and I think is the insincerity of Kenyans. We are all, there's a mantra that says we are all poor until declared otherwise. So even the guy, the millionaire that drives very big vehicles out here and lives in very posh places and have got all this income, declares himself as a poor person. And so it is actually, they give the state the hard task of trying to establish whether he is poor or not. So even when people are declaring their tax return, people say they earn nothing. But if you go actually to see what they actually earn lots of money. That is the reason why sometimes I even doubt this word declaration by ministers being vetted or anybody. Because it is nobody, actually, there is no forensic audit of your property for you to come and declare that today I'm worth 100 million. Probably tomorrow you can decide and say tomorrow I'm worth 200 million. So this is where the problem is. A rich man can come and declare that he's poor. And that's the reason why, if you look at the data, 70% of the people who entered data when they were doing the applications actually says that they were children of single mother. That basically means 70% of our university going students are actually coming from the single mother household. Is it true? I don't think so. I don't think so. So it is a lie that has brought us to this level.
But with lack of proper data, how else do you use this classification model?
With lack, we are supposed to generate data so that if you are given a form to fill, be truthful enough. If Kenyans were truthful enough, I am 100% sure.
But we have already implementation stage without having the data.
I am 100% sure that if we are truthful enough that people declare their wealth as it is, this banding model will work.
The challenge appears that we jumped the gun, that we went, as Bwana suggests, we went into implementation, a model that required data and better classification, and therefore, just by doing so, we've disenfranchised quite a huge chunk of students.
But how do we get data? You get data by asking questions. The reason is I give you a form and you're asked to fill in data, personal data, because they have over 500,000 students in our universities.
But if you use that data now, you're saying it's already erroneous.
It is erroneous. It is erroneous.
Everyone is coming from a family.
It is erroneous because Kenyans don't want to provide a good data. And so basically means it is because of the Kenyans' insincerity that now we find that this model of banding cannot work.
Yet we've just come from a census in 2019.
Census does not generate.
That's the best place to collect data.
You cannot collect personal data on census. Census just collect information, general information about the populace. But in terms of your income, census do not actually collect data of your income.
Without this kind of data, can this model really work?
Let me finish before we go. This data cannot be found as long as we are insincere. because you are asked about an information that is personal. You are asked about how much you are. And because you know if you declare that you're earning above 120,000 per year, you are going to get less, you declare that you do not earn that much. And yet the insincerity cannot be cured by data. People need to be sincere, and once Kenyans are sincere to be able to give their proper data, including the ministers to give their proper wealth, including every civil servant that is supposed to do a wealth declaration to give their proper wealth, if we cannot reach that level, then any model, it doesn't matter where it comes from, is bound to fail.
Okay, yet the model just before this one appeared, or rather Kenyans were used to it, it worked to a huge extent. Then why change it? If at all we know and we agree that there's no proper data to back this kind of funding model.
Me, I would want to say that, in fact, we should not be hasting models and impose them to the people. Let us be obviously having good time to do piloting so that you can be able to be sure what you are implementing to the people. Also, let us also give Kenyans enough and wide public participation in matters to do with their governance. This is a very key area where you don't want to lock any single children out. And as much as you don't want to lock any single children out, then don't discriminate. Make sure that there is a model that actually will be able to absorb anybody, any children, without discrimination by this element of data. Because data may give you the wrong data. And then what you get to do is to discriminate a student who has no single purpose of being discriminated. Number two, if we can be able to get back to our model of primary school, where the whole learning is government free. It does not involve those schools which are in private, but it actually takes care of those who are in public schools. And why then can we look for a model where we will make the whole education free, and especially to those who are in public universities, public secondary schools, and public primaries. Okay. Then we say, whoever does feels that actually he want to go the private way, then take your mantle. And that one, it can be so flexible and very fair to everybody.
Okay. Now that when we had that there was a Speaker's Kamukunji with members of the National Assembly, Bwana Titus Lote, there was a lot of hope that probably members of the National Assembly, probably there's a gap in legislation or probably an opportunity for new legislation to guide the implementation of this new model would help us wriggle through some of the challenges. Were you part of that meeting, and do you agree with some of the outcomes?
I was part of the meeting, and I totally agree. And to also tell Kenyans, because I have heard of many Kenyans who are saying that MPs do not want to let go of bursaries within the CDF kitty. But if you look at the proposal that is coming from members of parliament yesterday, it was a very robust, forward-looking proposal where members of parliament are saying, let's us consolidate all bursaries, all funding models within the education sector, and that we can solve this. This is like a magic bullet. Because, Fred, if you look at the kind of funding that we've got now, we got a lot. We've got bursaries are coming from the women rep seat. Bursaries are coming from the university fund. Bursaries, education funding is coming from the HELB. We get counties are also giving out money. We get trusts are also giving out money. So you find that there are students that are well connected with information, and they get all this funding from all sources, and there are those that do not. And so for the first time, I want Kenyans to look straight into the members of parliament and say, you're doing the right thing. Because the proposal that is coming from the members of parliament yesterday was very clear. Let us consolidate this, and let us have an information system that be able to identify all learners. And I want to appreciate the COOPs, the COOPs numbering of students, so that if you are applying for bursary in the county, you provide your COOPs number. If you're applying for bursary in this constituency, you also give your COOPs number. And so if you have a centralized IT system, we can be able to know that you have already gotten bursaries from the county, and so we give the bursaries from the CDF to somebody else. That is what is lacking now. And I think the members of parliament yesterday said we can never let go of bursaries and look at what Pasaris brought to parliament. Pasaris is a politician and a member of parliament like any other. She said that we need to have a model in a legislation that is bringing before Parliament. We need to have a model that will get bursaries and funding of institutions of higher learning from politicians. Politicians are saying, we want this to go as long as it's going to serve Kenyans. So nobody should always vilify politicians that we are the ones who want to continue sticking on to bursaries.
You said there's a proposal to have university education funded by politicians.
No, people are saying that politicians do not want to let go of bursaries in their dockets.
Are you saying that they're willing now to give?
They're willing. Look. Let me read. Let me read.
Major campaign tool for.
Let me read this to you. Last week, Nairobi Women Rep Esther Passaris gave notice of motion on comprehensive bursary reforms in the country, which heavily borrows from the Basic Scholarship and Bursary Bill 2024. It seeks to consolidate all government scholarship and bursaries and put them under the ministry and delink them from politicians. These are politicians doing this. And yesterday, we all backed it up.
It is still a proposal. Are you saying that members of the National Assembly will actually vote for such a
Yes, when we sat yesterday at the Kamkunji.
It is the biggest factor in your CDF kitty.
We do not care as long as the Kenyans are able to get funding and go to institutions of learning. If you look at the Kamkunji yesterday, look at the statement that the Speaker, Moses Wetangula, started with. He said this is the magic bullet that we've been looking for, and members of Parliament overwhelmingly supported it.
So what is the next step after that Kamukunji?
After the next Kamukunji, the PS was there. Dr. Inyangala was there. And I think the PS was given the task to ensure that a bill comes out very quickly. So if this bill, which is overwhelmingly supported by members of Parliament in a Kamukunji, if it comes through the right channels and comes to the floor of the House in the right manner, I think the members of Parliament are going to support it. I will support it. I think Kawira is going to support it, as long as it is going to solve the problem, the perennial problems of funding of our institutions.
We know, and especially when it comes to the issue of NGCDF, members of Parliament are very emotive about it, and they've not been willing to let go of the CDF, even when the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional. They've gone even against the laws of this land to ensure that CDF stays. They find it, or they're so endeared to this CDF kitty. One of the biggest factors of that CDF is bursaries for education. Are you saying that members of the National Assembly have woken up one day and decided, okay, fine, now we are willing to let it go? We're a bit skeptical about that.
It's a game that we have to wait and see. Because I would want to concur with you that, in fact, bursary, and especially the secondary, both secondary and colleges bursaries are very key to a member of Parliament. And the beauty of it is that that money never misses, because yearly it always comes. And therefore, any single needy person is always assured, even though a member of Parliament can write a letter to school, that this student stay in school and the check will be coming. That letter is being honored. And therefore, at this point in time, where now we are in another view of merging this kitty to one, I would wish, if we want to cure this particular problem once and for all, then let us consolidate all these funds together and make the public education, both in secondary and university, free. Consolidate. And if you are missing a small target, then the government top up. And so that, in fact, we can be sure every student will be equal, taken care.
Well, indeed, education still remains the biggest factor in the country's budget. 650 billion shillings every year. That's the one biggest spend on the government budget. Question is, are we concerned about how this administration is handling education as a whole? Are you generally concerned that all of a sudden we seem to be having so many problems, from curriculum, handling of JSS, strike by teachers next week, strike by university dons? Now, university funding model is not working. Bwana Lote, I'm sure by the time this Kamukunji was being called, is because these concerns are becoming too much.
And we need to appreciate the fact that members of Parliament can be able to meet extra times, because already Parliament is adjourned as we speak. But you see, members of Parliament realize that there is a problem. And the fact that this coming week, students are going to go back to school and that there's a teacher strike because of issues in schools, including their salaries, and that the universities are going to open and that the funding model is having a problem. So members of parliament are actually members that are also members of the society, and they understand that it is within parliament that they can do a legislation. And they have realized, and I like what the speaker said yesterday. The speaker told the PS, and I'll read, Mr. Wetangula said that the current situation where MPs, members of, if you can generate a policy to amalgamate these funds, this House will be more willing to turn it into law so that we get university education that is free. That is what the speaker said yesterday in the Kamkunji. He's asking the PS, that's what I just said, to amalgamate. And this also was brought in, this Kamkunji was by MP, Changamwe MP Omar Mwinyi, to say, please, can we all come back together to parliament, even if you are in your rural home, let us try to solve this matter. And I'll tell you, there is no other time where members of parliament have been able to congregate in a Kamkunji to look at a national matter that will have actually been looked at yesterday. And so the PS was put to task by the members of parliament in a Kamukunji to go and amalgamate this thing as soon as possible. And I'll tell you, if parliament open its doors next month and that the PS is able to put these things before parliament, I'm telling you, all members of parliament are going to vote for it, because we know we are the powerhouse of education in this region, the East Africa region, and probably even Africa. And if we continue joking around with our funding model, we might be going down the drain. And the reason why we want to protect it, so that we have our students and our learners being the best in this region, that we can be able to export labor anywhere in the world and build this country.
Okay. Let's now take a look at some politics away from education. It features there on the front page of the Daily Nation, the top strip. Why Mount Kenya leaders want 50% plus one rule abolished. A very interesting proposition as well. Talks about a meeting that happened in Thika a few days ago. The story is on page 7. As 2027 election realignments begin, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's allies in Mount Kenya now want the 50% plus one requirement to win the presidency done away with. Now, this was during a meeting at a hotel on the outskirts of Thika on Sunday night, and those present suggested that a simple majority be enough to have one declared president. To form a government, the leaders, who included lawmakers, said the threshold should be 60% of the votes cast. Yeah? So out of the 60% of the votes cast, that is the threshold for one to become a president. And then that would require the president-elect to reach out to competitors to form a coalition government. Bwana Gakuya, you are a known ally of the deputy president. Are you aware of this meeting? Were you present? And what is this discussion about?
First and foremost, let me say, this particular game is a propaganda. And it's nothing little. It's not a meeting that I have ever heard about. In case that actually those allies that are close to Deputy President could be in a meeting, I don't think I can miss in any single meeting.
So you are not present.
And therefore, me, this one I would say is just a gimmick. It's a propaganda and divergence of something. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would like to say is, one, as much as we will be clamoring for thresholds, I think that what we call presidential threshold that is set by the Constitution is quite key. It's quite okay. Because, one, we have discovered that actually it also gives a room for many regions to become part of making that government. It's not the time when one community could be able to be having what we call popular vote and carry the day. It then
would support this proposal.
No. I can't support this proposal.
Because a simple majority.
One thing, let me tell you.
Have control.
Let us look for to more inclusivity, where at least the whole Republic of Kenya can feel power. Let us not get back to those old days where if power is in encouraging land, then it's not felt elsewhere. If power is in Mount Kenya, it's not felt elsewhere. Let us at least uphold what we have, because I think the system we are in today is the best. And let us also have teams that actually can be vigorously campaign to win the majority of Kenyans to close that margin of 50 plus 1.
But the suggestion, according to this, is that if you get a simple majority out of the 60% of the votes cast, not necessarily 50 plus 1, that probably you would be forced into a coalition government to get other people, and that would be more inclusive.
I still believe that, in fact, the model that we are in is more working. And what we need to maybe to think in the future is maybe to do some amendment to have what you call, to return back the office of the official leader of opposition. Because what gives some jitters after elections is to have a second winner who has no any award. And if we can consider to have such an office, because the Constitution actually locks those doors where a contender could find himself into Senate or to National Assembly. And the time that is given by our Constitution to present names for nominations is earlier 3 months before election. So you cannot present your name and yet you are a contester. In this case, you look to those members who contest for those presidential positions, who could be the leaders of that particular coalition, who finds themselves completely out of power, but actually their representative are the one who takes charge. If we can have a way to incorporate now the office of the official leader of opposition and fund that particular office, the jitters will come down.
You seem to agree a lot with this meeting that you say you're not part of, because they also propose an introduction of the post of prime minister to expand the executive seats and formal roles of the opposition and make it attractive to the other presidential.
I believe prime minister position is okay. Let us have a wider government where not only 1 or 2 communities can benefit. You know, when it's splitted, it will move to many various regions. Okay. And the various regions can feel power.
Bonalote, what is your take on this? We seem to be looking for a formula that would be more accommodative than what this constitution provides for.
Well, I think we are allowed by law to sit and make proposals. But I think we are allowed by the same law to only operate with what the law provides. The Constitution is the supreme law, and the Constitution has given us the 50 plus 1. And we sat down many years to draft this Constitution of Kenya 2010. And we actually looked through all these proposals, including this one was actually put on the table. And the 50 plus 1 took the day, and that we said the winner will be the 50 plus 1. But I think the extra management of our politics and our governance in this country has shown that the 50 plus 1 has always allowed an handshake. And an handshake has been in this country like as long as we live. Moi had an handshake with Odinga, Kibaki had a handshake with Odinga, Uhuru had an handshake with Odinga, and now Ruto has also been forced, even despite the fact that he had promised Kenyans that he was not going to have an handshake. And Gachagua said that he was going to lock and close all the doors and the windows so that there is no Raila inside the government. But the extra happenings in this country necessitated it. And I think the reason why Mount Kenya is such, and I know Mount Kenya is a huge voting bloc in this country. And when they sneeze, I think every other part of the country catches cold. You know, there's a time when they talk about the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, and that became a big debate. Now they're sitting down to say, probably we want another formula where it will not allow or necessitate an handshake, where it's the majority, just the simple majority take it, which was what we had before. The simple majority had its own very big flaws, and the reason why Kenyans say we do not want the simple majority, we just want a 50 plus 1. So they're going back because they realize probably at the time when there was a single majority, they easily got into power and there was no much of an handshake. Now they have realized that with this constitution, for you to survive, you definitely have to have an handshake. And we've seen in all the elections, the Kibaki, the Uhuru 1 and 2, there must be a fight. And all this fight then calls in the other person to come in and then share government. So Kenyans are even asking, why will we even have an opposition in this country? Because I will become an opposition, I ensure you win, and when you win, I fight, and then you call me to the table and we share the government. So probably They're trying to say, can we get another formula? But for me, I'll say this formula will fail because it failed before. That's the reason why Kenyans say, let us move from the simple majority, let us go to the 50+1. This one is going to fail. And again, if you look at it, the spirit of it is about the interest of Mount Kenya, not the interest of Kenyans. Okay. You look at it, look at the statements. They are saying it is to secure the interest of Mount Kenya. But I think Kenya is bigger than Mount Kenya. Kenya is for Kenyans.
Okay. And talking about the regional realignments, the cartoon on the People Daily, if my director can help me with that, talks about this collection of communities around the Mount Kenya region, the Gikuyu, Embu, Meru Association towards 2027. Now, the cartoon here on the People Daily has the image or caricature of the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, trying to include the Akamba into that list. So now instead of having Gikuyu, Embu, Meru Association, you have Gikuyu, Embu, Meru, Akamba Association. These are the same regional groupings towards 2027 that we see every other election cycle. Do you see a risk in this return to regionalism and the connection between one region and another, that this region within the mountain, if we work with this extension here, whom we can call our cousins, then we have a good chance come 2027. Do you see a risk if we go that direction?
I would say that there is no single risk on this. And Kenya, there is no single day that it has gone any other route except a grouping route. Even those old days, during Moi era, Moi was still using regions to balkanize and make a way to go. And that was very easy to divide and rule. Because he was making sure he will elect this and separate them and create two candidates and then dismantle the votes. And through that political calculations, he was able to get the answers right. You can attest that during the 1982, when Moi garnered 1.7 million votes. But there was two candidates from Mount Kenya region, who was Kibaki and Matiba. Both of them had 2-point-something plus. So if the vote was combined, could have beaten Moi 10-0. But that division, which Moi was very popular with, carried the day. Even up to date, you also realize during the coming in of Kibaki, it's not only one single term when Kibaki survived the second term, but it was so critical to him, it's almost burned his country down. And that is 2027. Otherwise, his first term was a combination of Raila, Saitoti,
it was a more nationalistic view of the Rainbow Coalition.
And as much as it was more wider, it was not by individual voter, but by those kingmakers from different areas. Because Raila was representing a certain community. Saitoti was representing a certain community. Kalonzo was representing a certain community. If it is Kamodo and the team, they were people from Mulima. That setup has been ever there. And come to when Kibaki also go to Telong, Raila made sure that he combined the rest of the team against one. And that is how he made it. And
and there was a risk back then.
It was
42 against 1.
Yes, because even at the end of the day, even Kibaki won, nobody was convinced that Kibaki won legally. Everybody was certain that Kibaki has rigged the election. Even personally myself, by the manner of how the votes were being counted, you could suspect that, in fact, how comes then Raila was almost at 3 million and all of a sudden Kibaki has overtaken him. Then it was somewhat suspicious. Currently, let me see, during the time of Uhuru, we have seen a combination between the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu, which made them, gave them the way. And that happened the two terms of Uhuru. Currently, the government we are in, we have Ruto, who vigorously campaigned to win the Mount Kenya region vote. And that we combined, giving a leeway to move on. So it's a game of numbers that actually people look for. Okay. And even today, it will be no any crime that there can be a craft of a correction. Because today, we have seen Raila already crossing to work with Ruto. What can we call it? We can easily call it Western Alliance. So, and there's no problem with that. When you see Kalonzo now trying to craft an issue with Murima, it's not a claim at all. Because at the end of the day, they can't make that. They should also require some other tribes everywhere.
But Bwana and allow me to say that you are a much younger leader, even in the National Assembly. The younger generation are saying they're tribalists going forward. But we see the older generation, the political elite, still going back to the same methods of regrouping according to communities and regions where they come from. It is a method that has worked for them all along. Do you see a risk in them insisting on this same formula when the younger generation are saying, no, we need to do it differently?
Well, I think they always say that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. That is a saying that is very universal. The younger generation are proving this differently. If you look at the demonstration before, it was infiltrated by thugs and goons, who again were coming with the old script of goonism during demonstrations. The younger generations are cleared, and they're clearing themselves out of what has been on the past. So for me, I know this will work, but it will not work for a long time, because we are getting a tribeless country. And everybody desires that we reach that level, because this country has been so tribalized to the levels where even when a cabinet is being named, people say, who are these for us? It's as though this country is divided entirely in terms of tribes. And it reaches a suspicion, to levels of suspicion, where they say that if a cabinet secretary is coming from region X, you cannot go to that cabinet secretary, and that the resources that is under this cabinet secretary will always go to that region. And I think that's a work in this country for a long period of time, to the disadvantage of those that do not even get themselves into cabinet. Now, the younger generations are coming to turn this out, so that we have people that are not tribalists, so that if we can have all Kikuyus as cabinet secretaries, all Luos, or all Kambas, or Degodias as cabinet, as long as they serve the interest of Kenyans. What we are seeing now is that people are trying to still say that we need to tribalize. We still tribalize appointment, we still tribalize politics, we still tribalize the way resources are going. The young generation are going to turn these things out, and I really want to appreciate, despite the fact that we thought the Gen Z's demonstration was demonic, the Gen Z's demonstration is proving to it that this country is going to walk out of this kind of schemes, and that we are not going to see people regrouping in terms of tribes, but we're going to see people regrouping in terms of ideologies and ideas that are going to transform this country.
Because many people feel they were disenfranchised, even in the last elections. Many people who are even registered voters did not come out to vote, because simply they felt that the way this politics has been conducted is not how they feel. And many pundits claim that that is where the younger generation of this country is domiciled, that probably the 16 or 15 million Kenyans who voted were very much focused on this kind of regional balkanization. Don't you think that proceeding in this same route could have the same impact, that you're locking out a third of people, of Kenyans, who could actually end up determining this election?
One, let me say, Edimori, that it is your freedom to choose. Voting is you have a freedom to choose. And the freedom to choose is not domiciled on community-based or tribal-based. But you have that right to choose. And that's why you cast your vote. This way, I believe if the young generation feels that actually maybe the tradition that has been there before is overtaken by time, then they should prepare to come with a candidate of their own and hype him, so that at least they can also shape the way. But if they will stay at the back seat and wait for the old to decide for them, they will decide the same game, because the same route will carry the day. But as much as voting is right of everybody, I would urge that, in fact, and persuade the young generation that just register as voters in your big numbers, because you can change this country to the destiny you want. Okay. But you cannot change by talking. It is by action. You must participate. Okay. And that participation, look for a candidate from oneself who can also be a man of your creation, who you can say, now, this is our candidate and it's tribalist, and we are getting this election. Then win by numbers, but no short of that.
All right, very well said. And as you make your final remarks, there are suggestions now that huge aspects of the finance bill that was rejected could be making a comeback. The president has indicated that, the Treasury CS has indicated the same. The eco levy is already being talked about. We could see a return to the debate on the finance bill that was rejected in total. Bwana Lote, as you make your final remarks, do you think that's the best route, or should Treasury probably introduce amendments to the mother bills and not use this tag of an omnibus finance bill 2024 that already has created a lot of bad blood between Kenyans and the National Assembly?
The finance bill was overwhelmingly rejected by Kenyans, and they went to the streets and said no. The finance bill was also rejected then by Parliament. Was accepted by Parliament but rejected by the President and brought back to Parliament. And Parliament said, yes, we do not want this finance bill. So Parliament rejected finance bill after being reintroduced from the President. The President rejected finance bill 2024. The Kenyans rejected finance bill 2024. It is wrong for us to even call that name finance bill 2024. We need to come up with amendments and probably other ways of getting revenues without going back to the finance bill, which was rejected. Because there is no reason of us going to a brink of collapse as a country because of finance bill 2024. And after 2 months, 3 months, actually after 2 months, not even 3 months, we are back to it again. It basically means that we look like warthogs that forgets immediately where they're coming from. We need to be very cognizant of the fact that this is what nearly brought this country to a collapse, and that we need to look at it way differently. I am just perturbed and shocked because like I said yesterday somewhere elsewhere, I said we've got probably a disease as a country, and probably the Gen Zs that are going to be the ones that are solving this disease from us. The outgoing CS, Bwana immediately leaves out. He leaves Treasury, National Treasury. He says it is high taxes cannot guarantee high tax income. Mm-hmm. But when he was there, he's the one who introduced the finance bill to Parliament. Mbadi, who is now the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, when he was in Parliament, he vehemently rejected the finance bill in totality. If you listen to Mbadi now, being sitting at that desk where Ndungu was, he says there were aspects of the finance bill that were good and that we can reintroduce them. Then I said, there's a disease. When you go into this seat, when you go into cabinet, you just wake up to something that you didn't say before. The same happens to Bwana Oparanya. Oparanya used to be a very serious critic of this government. But if you hear what he said in Kakamega, he said, from outside, I didn't realize that this government has done a lot. Now I've gone in, I've realized the government is doing a lot. Right. For me, I will say, as Kenyans, let us continue rejecting it if we did reject it before, and urge the government to look at other ways. And I think there are many other ways of killing a rat. Let us look at other ways in which we can introduce and be able to plug in the 346 billion shortfalls in the budgets than just taking us back to the finance bill. They probably, if at worst, let them give another name, but not call finance bill 2024, because that elicits a very bad negative thoughts to Kenyans.
Okay, final words, Bwana.
I just want to echo my sentiment to what my panelist has just stated, that we cannot expect to have another finance bill. There can be a way to introduce another bill, but the title can never be a finance bill. I am sure that, in fact, that is doable, and it's happening in our the past parliament. There are those bills that are introduced in the middle, and to cater for a certain interest in terms of harnessing what you call gaps of financing. Okay. And it is doable. And I believe that, in fact, what you determine is anything that you want to bring as a bill must see the light of the day by what we call public participation. And therefore, make it wider, allow Kenyans to put their views in it. And as the Kenyans agrees for a direction we want to take them, I don't think that is anything, because we are in a civilian government and we must understand that it has to be people driven. And this is people driven, then you must give them a room to listen.
All right, we have to wait and see what will happen with that anticipated reintroduction of some aspects of the rejected finance bill 2024. Thank you so much, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Titus Lote, MP Kachiliba, our panelists this morning. As we take a look at the headlines this morning and the big discussion points, and of course the big one today is the Senate upholding the impeachment of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza, which happened very early today morning at around 1 a.m. And so many Kenyans are just waking up to that piece of news. A lot of other discussions coming up after the break. Sheikh Sharora will be taking charge of the relationship discussion today.